All right. So, just to do a recap of what we've covered so far, we started off by going through, I'll say, different branches in IT, cybersecurity, and put all the dots together. Well, we came to the conclusion that cybersecurity still is the future of IT because we call the shots. And it also has to do with data. It doesn't matter where you work, it's in IT or in information technology. Our goal is to ensure that users' data are being protected, it's not being tampered with, and then is available at any given point in time, where we went through the concept of CIA TRIA, where the C stands for confidentiality, I stands for integrity, and A stands for availability. I would say for confidentiality, there are different ways that confidentiality can be maintained. One of those ways is through encryption, and we also make mention of access control. I would say confidentiality just ensure that unauthorized users cannot get access to data. Just give people the privilege that they need to carry out their job. And we actually discussed three components of access control, where we talk of identification, authentication, and authorization. And it's just like when you log into your Facebook account, the very first thing that you're going to do is to put in your account number or your username, sorry, which is your identity. And you need to be able to prove that identity by putting your password, and then you are being authorized to access whatever resources or giving that access to your own account, where you can see even your own photos or your friend photos or video, or whatever thing that you can see. So likewise, in organization setting, same principle applies. Before you log in, you have to go through same process. Then we talk about integrity, where we said that it's just to make sure that data has not been tampered. Like now, I'm sending you all our Zoom link via internet. You want to make sure that nobody mess up with that Zoom link. They've not like play with it, and then once you try to log in, you log into a different session. So you just want to make sure that, data actually maintained the original state of that particular data. And one of the way we can actually obtain this is through the process of hashing, where we have to compare hash values to make sure it remains the same. And availability, just as the name speaks for itself, data is available at any given point in time, and there are different ways that you want to make sure that data is available, like backups. Just as some of us, we perform backup in our phone or WhatsApps, likewise, organization also back up their data. And then we also talk about like organization do patching, and then disaster recovery site, where organization can have a disaster recovery site. Say should something happen to their primary site, they can perform a failover just to ensure that the user can always have access to that data at any given point in time. And some of this, though we discuss it, still like fundamental, but it's gonna actually take us in a very long road, right? Because by the time we start going on security control, then we really have to understand some of this, because we're gonna revisit it, it's gonna resurface. And then we also went through the process of vulnerability, threat, and risks, where we said that vulnerabilities are just the weaknesses that an organization have. You can see like different like software that come with different bug, or even having users that I always call them uneducated user. Doesn't mean that they are not educated, but they do not understand your organization policies. They are not trained. So those users actually present the highest risk your organization could ever have. And then we talk of threat being the probability or the likelihood that a vulnerability can be exploited, which can result to security risks. And security risks, which that's why we come up with the name risk management framework, because how do we manage our risks? Organization will always have those risks, even if it's a risk that will occur or it has already occurred, but what are those things we have in place to make sure that we manage those risks? And that's why you keep hearing the word risk management framework. So risk is again is just a probability that a threat can exploit a vulnerability that can result to the loss of either confidentiality, integrity, or availability, or the loss of the three of them. And at this point, each time a data breach occurs, now we start thinking what component of the CIA has been breached, right? It's not just a matter of a data breach has occurred. And based on our process of categorization that we did last class, now we need to come now with the impact level, where the impact level could be low, it could be moderate, it could be high. So what's the impact level say confidentiality has been breached? What's the impact level say integrity has been breached? What's the impact level say availability has been breached? Is it a low impact? Is it a moderate impact? Is it a high impact? And based on the impact level, that determines the criticality of that data breach. Okay, and now that we're talking about risk management, first thing, how do you even manage your risks? Right? That question can even feature when you're taking your interview, because if you look at it very well, it focuses back again on data. Does your organization have a data classification policies in place? Once you guys have classify your data, then you start managing risks by going through the process of categorization. Because once you categorize your information system, that determines the type of security controls that goes to that system. So a high system would definitely have a lot of security controls. A moderate system, some form of security control, but a low, not really. And as we seen last class, when they talk of low, it means that it has a limited adverse effect. Moderate means it has a serious adverse effect, and high means it has a catastrophic or severe adverse effect. So based on the system categorization, then you'll be able to determine the type of security control that goes to your system. And we said that for you to categorize that system, again, you have to identify each and every information type that that system will collect, house, or process. Then you need to come up with the impact level, where impact level is low, impact level equals to low, moderate, or high. So once you have the impact levels, then for you to come with your system categorization, you need to get the highest watermark for that system. So get the highest watermark for that system. If just one impact level, say confidentiality is high, by default, that system is a high system. And we said that there are times where you can tell low impact levels, you can upgrade impact level from low to moderate, moderate to high. But the one thing is, when doing that, you have to come up with a rationale behind it. But the one thing you're not going to do, you can never downgrade. You can never downgrade to, say from a high to a moderate or a moderate to a low. So we did cover all of this. And then now I'm seeing this slide. We also touched on other frameworks, not only the one in the US, where though we talk on FISMA and FETRAM, and we said FETRAM is FISMA in cloud, because again, they still uses a NIST 853 publication, which has to do with security controls. We also touch base on other frameworks like HITRUST for a healthcare system. As a matter of fact, USC, I think you guys saw the post. We were honored to receive an invitation to attend the HITRUST conference. I'm actually in Dallas. I came to Dallas. So I did attend that, and it was awesome. Like, we met with a lot of, different CEO and people who are still confused, also trying to understand the frameworks, and being able to get an insight just to help, better UST is something that I feel like we really appreciate it. And then talking for a financial sector, where we touch base on PCI DSS, these are our acronyms. And then we said that for international bodies, where we'll have to touch it as GDPR, where we have it has to do with different series, but this is something that is going to come handy along our journey. And then we say, once we're done with all these different regulatory frameworks, then we start talking of third-party vendor risks. And the key person behind this is a SSAE 18. I was surprised. I met with some CEO that are really confused, still could not really understand. And that's why, in as much as you want to get some leadership role, I always prefer trying to get your hand dirty, do the actual work. When you are up there, then you know what you are saying, right? Not just being, somebody up there and then you really don't know how this really works. Because I met with people that I feel like they are way more than myself, but I was able to throw a lot of insight because I have the experience. I've worked on this thing. I know how it operates. Okay. And the SSE 18 actually is a mandatory standard for company that has to do with, sourcing their products. Okay, if today we want to use Zoom, or we want to use, for example, we use our film on our website, something I didn't tell you guys, if you cannot pay out of pocket, you can also take a credit to pay with us. So being able to onboard that vendor, we did an assessment on them, to understand what kind of security risks are we exposed to, what kind of data is our system collecting. Because one of the things that we are trying to do is to make sure we transfer all risks. We don't want to collect no form of payment, right? You can still do a payment on our website via PayPal, so that when you go to the PayPal, everything is being directed to the PayPal website. So we are transferring that risk. So when we were trying to bring this vendor with a lot of question, and because I need to know, once you are doing any form of business, if you are taking people credit card, you got to be very careful, because you have to be in compliance with PCI says. But if you're dealing with a third-party vendors, you need to make sure that that vendor actually have a good standard. And this is definitely going to come handy during our training. Any questions so far? All right. So since we'll talk on the categorization of information system, we said we categorize an information system using the NIST 860 volume 2 and the FIPS 199. And we said that as of now, we know that it doesn't matter what publication or FIPS we are mentioning, it's just a summary of FISMA or FedRAM, right? FIPS summarizing NIST summarizing FISMA or FedRAM. So the two main publication that we use last class was NIST 860 volume 2 that has all the information types. If you remember, when we put that document, you have a lot of information types. And that's a document that you guys are going to be working on your very first project, hands-on, where you have to identify all the information types on that system. And then FIPS 199 simply describe the impact level, the high level. We did cover that again, where we said that the impact level could be low, moderate, or high. But the one thing I want to point out here is that once you have categorized that system, we are start talking, because we are doing this thing now, targeting the next project or the next phase of the RMF, which is, if I can pull this real quick. Oh, 1 minute. Let me stop sharing. That way I can. Let me also pause record. Okay. So if you look at it very well, the talk of categorization of information system, the next step is selection of controls. We're going to spend some time on this step too, if not nothing less than a month. Just understanding security controls, doing a lot of job, because your experience is really going to come handy once you understand security controls. I bet you are good in cybersecurity. Security control is actually the kill. You might feel like you know security control until you start working with a project that you realize that it takes a lot, right? So, and that's why once we're done with this project, we're going to spend a lot of time. I think we have close to 3-4 projects just on the security control aspect. So when we categorize the information system, we start managing our risks. I want you guys to now put the dots together, right? We know what risk is, probability, likelihood of a threat exploiting a vulnerability that can result to the loss of either CI Atria. So once you've categorized your system, the next thing is to select controls, because once you've come up with your highest watermark for that system, now you want to select a security control that will go per your system categorization. And each time you start hearing organizations say, I'm in compliance with FISMA, I'm in compliance with FedRAM, is because they have the mandatory security control that, the must have implemented the baseline, the word is baseline security control that NIST have actually put in place. And we're going to understand, we're going to work with this, right? So once you categorize it, you go now based on the impact level. If your highest watermark for that system is low, you already have the baseline control for a low system. It's a matter of you selecting those control. Do you implement those control? No. You're giving that to the technical folks, and that's why the security is easy, right? Your job is just to do something and copy and paste and send it to somebody to do it. Right. So if you have it a low system, you see all the baseline controls. If it's a moderate system, you see all the baseline controls. If it's a high system, you see all the baseline controls. And the truth is that baseline are the minimum requirement that needs to be done. So the minimum set of controls that you need for your system. Okay, minimum set of control that you need for your system. And if I want to be in compliance with this regulatory authority, then I need to make sure that I implement a minimum set of controls. If you guys, I don't know if you guys read the thing I sent, when you're starting your interview, you're not going to be telling them, you know what, oh, I categorize a new system. No, in security, if you want to succeed for your interview, tell me of a project that you brought something like some form of value, for your company or that team. Something that you did that, man, they'll be like, guess what? This person, even when you are gone, you actually left your blueprints right there. And that's why we have to look for something that, you have to tickle their ears, right? And that's why if you look at it, I make mention of recategorization of information system. They catch you where there is recategorization. When you are taking your interview, during your tell me about yourself, I work for this company where I recategorize their information system. If I'm a hiring manager, I'm like, why did you recategorize it? Right, because it shows that those are existing systems. What are those things? How were you able to tell that that system was not properly categorized? And that's where you need to have a scenario that you expatiate on. And if you are not on our community group, henceforth, there are things that I cannot be sharing on the free Facebook group. Some information are going to be shared on the community group and solely on your class group. So the recategorization aspect where you're taking interviews, I'm saying this is not too early. We need to learn how to, more of critical thinking, how you want to take your interview. For you to succeed in any interview, you state your problem. They give a statement, and I don't know, English. I think it's a statement problem. You have to state it, and then you have to tell me of the challenges that you face in that project. Tell me of your challenges that you face and how you were able to overcome those challenges. Interview is meant to be conversational, but if you don't know how to talk and take interview, then it becomes so intimidating and overwhelming. But if you know your approach, even when they take you out of your comfort zone, you can always beat around, bring them back to your comfort zone. Okay. And it's okay to tell them, you know what, I don't know this thing, but I'm willing to learn. It's not like when they ask you all questions, you're like, oh no, I have done it, I have done it. No, 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 no. Security is brought, even compliance is brought. Like where I work, if not that I teach and I've worked in other companies, if this was my first job, I don't think after this project I get another offer letter, because I literally just do one thing with control, does it over and over again. Right. So that's just to tell you that you might get a job where you might be doing something else, and it is okay for you to also admit to them and tell them, you know what, I don't know, but that's where the bet must always be there. I am willing. That shows that this is somebody that's looking for growth, somebody that's willing to learn, someone that's willing to go out of their comfort zone just to help their organization strive in a better way. Okay. So talking about the categorization of system, once we have categorized, once you use the NIST 860 column 2, the FIPS 199, the next step is for you to select security controls. And this is a selection of controls. But at this point, do you see they just put select controls? But at this point, we have two sets of controls. One is security control, one is privacy controls. Can somebody tell me the difference between these two sets of controls? Who wants to try? What's the difference between security control? Or give me an example of security controls and example of privacy controls. No? So when you hear the word privacy, what comes to mind? Because this is exactly what we're going to discuss shortly. What comes to mind when you hear the word privacy?
Something that you don't want anybody to see.
Something that you don't want anybody to see, but yes. And then start thinking about information. When you talk of privacy, who has right? Like, is it the company or the user? Who has right over, like, who really have the.
I think privacy is going to be maybe like the company, because privacy, they don't want everybody to get what information they have.
So can you give me an example of some of the information we're talking, like some of the privacy information we're talking about?
Like if it's from me, my social security.
Okay, exactly. Social security number. And
Yeah,
do you think you have right over that number or the company have right over that number? Who has like
I
right
have
over
right
that?
order number.
Thank you. So privacy has to do with you. Okay.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
privacy is you. What right do you have over your own information? So when we did the categorization of information system using this 860 volume 2, we were getting more of security controls. We're going to say a lot and lot of security controls. AC, where we've mentioned access control, encryption, there are a whole lot of them that we're going to see. Accountability, how users can be accountable for their actions, where you have to set user password. There's a lot and lot of them that you guys are going to work on your projects. But that does not end there, right? Because at this point, if you look at the project that we went over, at this point, we are working on a new system. So they want to develop an application. That's a new information system. We've identified all the data that goes to that system using this 860 volume 2. Then we have come now with a security controls. We've already determined the baseline, the highest watermark. Once we determine the highest watermark for that system, then we're also going to have the baseline set of security controls, correct? So now we have the baseline set of security controls. We have to implement those controls. It doesn't end there. You also want to come now through what we're going to discuss, the introduction of PTA and PIA that focuses so more on privacy. So PTA talk of privacy threshold analysis. It says it's a preliminary analysis to determine whether a system project or initiative require a full privacy impact assessment. Help identify if personal data is being collected, used, stored, or shared. Please, if you're not talking, can you mute? So at this point, you'll be seeing roles like privacy roles, right? If you take this, after this, you can work as a privacy officer. It's that easy. You've seen a lot of roles as privacy officer. This is exactly what they do, right? Where each time an organization is bringing new system, they want to be able to identify if that system is collecting a lot of private information, okay? High sensitive information. So once we've gone through categorization using 600 volume 2, it's gearing towards security controls. I'm just repeating myself because this is a project we're going to work on. But you also need to have this template. So the PTA is a template. We're going to pull one off the internet. If you go to the Department of Homeland Security, just put PTA, you're going to see their template right there, right? If you go to Federal Marketplace, you're going to see a template right there. So this is just a template where you're going to fill, not you, but depending on your role, you can definitely work with the folks that are going to help fill that particular duct, right? So it's just a template of question and answer that will tell you what kind of information that system is collecting, and you just fill it, fill it, fill it. And if you look at the key benefit, they say it saves time and resources by filtering out projects that do not need a full PIA. PIA, which is the next one, that's the acronym, we're going to discuss it, is literally a policy, right? That comes with a lot of question and answer as to what that system does. But the next slide, let me go there. It just defines PIA. We can come back to PIA. I want to talk about PTA. So if you look at PTA, say it quickly assesses if the project involves personal data and its further analysis is needed. Determine whether a full PIA is required based on initial findings. Create a documented record of the PTA process and decision-making rationale. Ensure initial compliance with privacy regulation and standard. So it's a template where you have to fill, and after you must have filled that template, you're going to determine if this system collects a lot of sensitive information. And if the system collects a lot of sensitive information, then you're going to need a PIA, where the PIA stands for privacy impact analysis or assessment, privacy impact assessment. Okay, so the very first thing, once you've categorized that information system, now your organization will have a template that you go through that template. You have to, it's a question and answer. answer. Once you've answered all those questions, then you have to determine if that system collects a lot of personal information. If the system collects a lot of sensitive or personal information, then we'll say that that system is PIA positive. You have the word positive and negative. So the system is PIA positive, means that it collects a lot of personal information. And if it's PIA positive and it collects a lot of personal information, then we're going to develop a PIA document, where the PIA stands for Privacy Impact Assessment. But if after filling the PTA, the privacy threshold analysis, and the end of the day, you determine that this system does not collect a lot of personal information, then the system is PIA negative. PIA negative means that you do not need a PIA policy. You do not need to develop one. Are we good?
Yeah, sure.
Who is not good? Hey, Linda can teach. So if you have any question, please just ask Linda, please. Okay. Who is not okay? I can repeat myself because I'm saying it because we have projects, a very heavy project. Your very first project today are going to learn how to develop a PIA policy. And as of now, if you're going to be taking training with us, if you do not have a ChatGPT account, try and create one before Monday. Any question, guys? We're good? Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Awesome. So that's just it. This is just it. This is what you need to understand, right? So for this, saying now that we've categorized an information system, we have the highest watermark. The next thing we're going to do, you work closely with the privacy officer. After this is your job, that's why you hear the word privacy. And because we have an act, the Privacy Act that was enacted in, I'm not so sure, I think 19 something, I've forgotten. Please don't quote me on that. Right. And if you look at it very well, you have like California, they also have their own Privacy Act. You have a lot of states that have a Privacy Act that company, if you have a business in that particular state, it's mandatory. You have to be in compliance with that Privacy Act. And I just like all these different frameworks and regulations because it's because of them that me and you are getting jobs. That's the honest truth. Because of them that we are able to get jobs, right? And one of the strongest in the world is the GDPR, one for the International Union. GDPR is literally the strongest. Where we go there, you see in GDPR in Europe, when a company collects people's data, you have the right to tell them to like literally delete your email, everything, like delete it from all the tools that, literally have processed or collect your emails. Like that's how strong some of this regulatory authority can be. And that's because it gives users the right over their own data. And even when we go to a healthcare sector, we hear the word HIPAA. Some of you, or maybe you're from the healthcare sector, you must have heard the word HIPAA. It also give users right over their own data. If you look at it, I don't know, initially now, if you go to the hospital, you have the right as to who you want them to see your medical record. You can be married and still deny your spouse from not seeing your medical record. You know that, right? This is it because of what is Privacy Act. Privacy. Give me my right. Let me determine who can see my record, who can do this. It's all because of all the Privacy Act that have been put in place. Okay. And because of this, because that system is collecting a lot of sensitive data, then we also want to check to make sure that we have to implement privacy controls. And that's why I said we have two sets of controls. You have what they call security controls. You have what they call privacy controls. If you have privacy controls, it's just one of the most easiest security control to access. I have some of my colleagues who are junior level. Most of their job is just to access privacy controls. With privacy controls, this document that I just mentioned, the PIA, it's a matter of reading the document and answering question, yes or no. You do not test them. You just read question and answer. You just see the control, you go and read, you says that control, that's it. So you can give me a privacy control of like, I'll say 200 or even 150, less than an hour. I should be able to access all of them because that's how easy it is, okay? It doesn't require any technicality. So now that I've understood that one, let me pull, let's go to this website. We have it on our website, but many a times I always trying to go to Google to pull this document. That way you guys you can do same. This are no magic. If you're looking for something, just make it a habit to go to the internet and try and get docked. Okay? If you still are confused, go to ChatGPT. ChatGPT will give you at least something, but the thing is you need to know the right prompt to put on ChatGPT. So, but yeah, if I just go to Homeland and Security, Homeland DHS. Okay. Oh, PTA. You see, DHS PTA template. And even when you go to if you go to how they call to the federal marketplace, that's where we're gonna get a lot of adopts. Like my friend that got his job, I told him that website, he's literally been like using that website a lot. Even when you get a job where you might be new, like security is new, I'm telling you, with our training, you should be able to help your organization get to a maturity level just by going through that website, because security is easy. You already have those templates. Now it's just for you to edit it in a way that will reflect your system, your information system. So if we can take a look on this template, let me click on it. Let me know, you guys, if you all can see my screen. Can you guys see my screen?
Yes.
All right, thank you. So if you look at the Department of Homeland Security template, privacy threshold analysis, this is their template. So if you go with that, if you manage to get a job with the Department of Homeland Security, this is their template. But the thing is, it's a template, right? So yeah, it's a template where now you need to edit it in a way that will reflect your information system. Okay. And that's where when you see any template, of course, you have like the different POC. But let me just show you guys what will be discussing. If you look at it here, they'll tell you what's the project name, the component name, the FISMA name, type of project or program. This is something that you guys are going to do as your project. These are something that already comes with the system. So you don't need to guess as to like, what am I going to put? It already has all the information. Where if you are the one to work, it's a matter of just go there, read, copy and paste, copy and paste, copy and paste. That's it. And then when you come to the project or program manager, the different POC or point of contacts, right? If you're new, try and get one acronym POC, point of contact, right? In many cases, when you will be reading document, you'll see POC or emails. So don't be surprised. So actually, I read something from Facebook. Somebody said that when she see the word work from home, WFH, so he thought of Waffle House or something. That was funny. So these are some of the acronyms that Myself, when I first of all got my first IT job, I think somebody put will be right back, like arrow, right back, something like the acronym. I didn't know what that meant. Right. So you're going to have some of these, but again, with time, we're going to get used to, right? So program or project manager, information security officer, the ISOs, if you are the manager or what's your manager name, you have to put, their name, their phone number, as well as their email, and then routing information, date this particular information was submitted to your privacy office, right? You have the privacy officer, and then you have the privacy officer that definitely works on this. But again, this is Department of Homeland template that any company like us today, USA can take it, adopt it. If this is a template we want, we change it, put our own logo, customize it per our needs. Okay. And then if you see, this is the very first question. Please describe the purpose of the project or the program. It is question and answer. Of course, if you have that system, you need to be able to understand some of this. That's why they say describe the purpose of the project or program. You have to describe it. And then date it was first developed, date it was last updated, pilot launched dates. Did they have any pilot program? Date end. And then the next one, which is the most important, from whom does a project or program collect, maintain, or use or disseminate information? Give me the name of the users, right? Tell me who are the primary user, that's, where the system will be collecting their information. And that's why they've put there, is it DHS employee? Are those contractors, members of the public? But you have to specify your users. And this template, everything that we see here, once we are developing our PIA, is still question and answer now more in a more comprehensive form, where you have to elaborate on each and every aspect, okay? And then what specific information about individual could be collected, generate, or retained? This is the question that would determine if this particular system is PIA negative or PIA positive. Because based on the type of information that you're going to list, social security number, first name, last name, date of birth, anything that this system will collect and has, you must document it. And once the privacy officer now is going, or the folks or the team working on that information system, say you guys already have a data classification policy, you already know what actually you already know your privacy control. I mean, the data that you classify as being private, right? So by the time you go on that policy, you see, then you'll be like, you know what, after going through this, then you can tell that this document is PIA positive, right? So based on what they have put, that's where, and you see they said retain such as names, addresses, or email. You got to document everything that the system is going to be collecting and housing. And then once you do it, do you see the income again? Social security number is one of those things that we know by default. If any system collect, house, or store social security number, automatically it's a high system and you will need privacy controls, okay? So does a project or program use social security number? So if I might ask, why do you think that we have the first question there? They say you should list all the information that the system will collect. And then they come to question 5, they specify social security number. Why? This, who can tell me? Why do you feel like they still have to have a session for social security number based on their own template?
Well, social security number has more of the private informations.
Excellent, right? You know, me and you today, we can have first name, same first name, same last name, same date of birth. You know that? Most America, they don't even have middle names, like some of us Africa that will have middle names, right? But there's one thing that you're not going to have like duplicate names, your social security number. That's a unique identifier in America. If you are logging somewhere in the world, they also have something that is equivalent to social security number, correct? So when you see the number, a system is collecting social security number by default. That is a critical system. So you can imagine the number of security controls that system is that they're going to implement for that system. And that's why they still have to specify this, right? As much as you must have documented on the previous question, but based on their template, again, you see the next question. If yes, please provide a legal authority for the collection of social security number. You must document the legal authority that allows you to collect people's social security number. So many times when we go to the hospital, we are providing our records, know that they have this. Any information system that stores those information, know that they have all of this document. And the beautiful thing about cybersecurity is that this document, most of them, you have to renew it annually. And that's where, taking now for your interview, one of my projects I work on is to review and update security policies. It's an annual thing that you keep doing over and over and over again. See how easy and sweet security is? So if yes, please describe the use of the social security number within the project or program. Does this system employ any of the following technologies? So that one, this is something that, again, for those who are continuing training with us, you guys are going to form groups, and then you guys are really going to, I'm receiving a call. Then you guys are definitely something that we're going to work on, all right? So when the time comes, it's something that we're going to do very hands-on. Any questions so far? So these are all the questions that once the answer, do you see they already have a template? That's why I say just like, you have to maybe document yes or no or whatever thing that you're doing. And then once you've done, you come now, you fill everything, then you come now with your final remarks to determine if this particular, you see, PIA. Do you see something? PIA. So once you've done everything, it will tell you now if this system determine PIA is sufficient at this time. So whatever information that you need, so at this point that you have to document. If we collect a lot of privacy information, then we know that we need a PIA. This thing, SON, this is something that we're going to discuss shortly. SON, System of Record Notice. But I just wanted you all to see, based on the fact that we've categorized the information system, the next step is to determine if that system is PIA negative or PIA positive, right? And the only way for us to determine if it's PIA negative or PIA positive is for us to feed a privacy threshold analysis or PTA. So once you feed a PTA, which is a template, right? And that's why our PowerPoint said as a preliminary step, right? So once you figure that out, you fill it, then it's just a matter of deciding this system is PIA negative or the system is PIA positive. If it's negative, it means that we do not need a PIA. The system is not collecting a lot of privacy information. But if it's positive, then we need to develop a PIA, a privacy impact assessment. Do you hear the word privacy impact assessment? If you kind of link them together, risk management framework. Now, privacy impact. Remember what we talk about impact? What is the impact level if the private information is being breached, right? I want you guys to put the dots together. Privacy impact assessment. So what is the impact level if a private information is breached? Low, like, is it low? Is it moderate? Is it high? So it comes back on CIA TRIA. And that's why we have the name privacy impact assessment. You have to assess the impact level. And I said security is just being proactive. You put proactive measures, right? Because we are doing those things like the impact level, risk is the probability. So what's the impact level if this item get breached? Yes, we have all it takes to protect the system, but what if a breach occurs? What would be the impact level? Is it low? Is it moderate? Is it high? Based on the CIA TRIA. And that's exactly what the thing is. Are we good? Nobody say anything. Are we good? Let me know. Can you just put your thumbs or let me know I'm making sense? Maybe I'm not making sense.
Yes.
Thank you. Yes, can you help me with a bottle of water? Cool. Thank you. Yeah. I don't know what my sister is doing here, so we better go out. Sorry, guys. Please take them out. All right. So now that we've disposed PTA and we've touched based on PIA, so each time I'm saying this because your project is coming on, so we know if a system is PIA negative or is PIA positive. So if we are good with that, and then I think I have a slide here. Okay, do you see? Example questions in a PTA, we just went through that template. Does the project involve the collection of personal data? Is the data being shared with third parties? Are there any existing privacy policy that applies to this project? So these are some of the questions that, of course, as we just see the one of PTA, for Homeland Security. So likewise, type Federal Marketplace. We go to Federal Marketplace in class. That's a site that you definitely have to bookmark. Federal Marketplace have all kind of template that you need. And I might also tell you, it doesn't matter where you worked. Even if you work in a private sector, because a lot of private sector, they don't really follow this thing like how a government agency is going to follow by the book, right? And that's why once you have this in-depth knowledge, you can definitely use this template to improve your security within your organization, right? Because you go there, they do not have it, but how do you get a template from those websites and then tailor it, customize it in a way that will fit your organization in? I'm saying it because I have friends, that's exactly what they are doing, and they are kind of praising the city like a small god in the organization where you are just getting there, copy it, and then just play with your hands, right? All right, so now that we've talked about, we know what PTA is, And then we know that if a system is collecting a lot of privacy information, then we need a PIA. So the PIA now at this point, guys, is just a policy, is a comprehensive document, question and answer that will also list the privacy risks, okay? And that's why I say, look at the word. What is the privacy, the impact level? If we can go back to the Department of Homeland Security, let's see if we can pull their Let's see if we can pull their PIA. Do you see? By the time I type, it just pop up. Even CMS might also have theirs. When you want to do something, do you see you guys also want to be careful, especially when you are dealing with a lot of phishing email? This one is being sponsored. You might just click this one. Is this really the Department of Homeland Security? No, this is OneTrust. So you also want to pay attention on your domain name, what exactly you're looking for. So Department of Homeland Security. And if you don't have antiviruses, make sure you have your antivirus installed, because when you're going to the internet to be downloading stuff, you don't know which document might have some form of malware, right? So if you have a good antivirus, it's definitely going to block it. Say UST want to adopt this template. This is the same thing. We're going to come here. We can just put our logo here, privacy impact for the ad name for UST Unlimited Skies Tech. Literally, we just edit anything to reflect our own information system and the different POC. And then it will definitely have an abstract, the abstract. And the beautiful thing about this document is they will tell you what exactly you need to fill. For example, they say the abstract is a single paragraph that will be used to describe the program and the PIA. It will be published on the Department of Homeland website and Federal Registrar. I'm going to come on that Federal Registrar shortly. It should be a minimum of 3 sentences with a maximum of 4 and conform to the following format. That is, the first sentence should include the name of the component and the system technology. So when you get something like this and then you see your system, you should be able to fill this. This is something that is going to come handy with the help of ChatGPT and the system description that we have given you guys. Students will be able to use this to come up with a complete PIA. And by the time you start, because one of our major projects is that you guys are going to learn how to develop policies, right? Policies as like most manager, I don't even think they know how to develop policy, but if you can develop policy and no security control, you can definitely get a managerial job as an issue. I'm saying it because I work with people and I know what they know, right? I'm seeing their limitation. By the time you have a good understanding on how this works, then you can even work as an ISO. Okay? So, and then this one, you have an overview of this project, but I want us to see the very first one. And this is where we start hearing of privacy control. We are assessing controls. This is something that I do. I assess both privacy and security controls on a daily basis. So the very section, authorities and other requirements. What specific legal authorities and or agreement permits and define the collection of information by the project in question? You must have a legal authority that allows your organization to be collecting people's data. And that's what I'm telling you, it's more of like me having ownership, because they've put this law in place, knowing that you are collecting a lot of privacy information. So if you are collecting this information, you don't just go and be collecting people's social security number and privacy information. You might have a legal authorities, a law that literally allows, at this point, not your company, that information system to collect that, people's information. And before, going there, you must have definitely consult with them. They understand the purpose of your project, the scope, why you guys need that, and then they give you guys that authority to collect. And that's why you have to list it. And again, I will tell you guys, and I will proudly say it is because of these regulatory authorities and these laws that we are getting jobs, because you cannot escape this. It's a must. Okay. And then you see the next one, what Privacy Act of System of Record Notice applies to the information. Son, I said we're going to go there. So each time you have your PIA DAPT, your PIA policy, you also need to have a SON number. If you hear the word System of Record Notice, So you are going to the federal registrar at this point, the federal system, the federated system or agency. You have to go to a federal registrar where you have a SON number where at a high level, you register this system. At a high level, tell me what you are doing, what kind of information, not like, just at a high level, a summary of what the system does. That is available to the public. In many cases, where do you think you can get this information? Like on our website, where do you think you can get this information? Who wants to give it a shot? If you go to our website, where do you think you can get information about the kind of information we collect? Or any website, where can you get that information?
Can you go on your website so we can look at it?
Nope. You've been visiting a lot of websites, right? Where do you think you can get it? Are you that type that shop online? Do you even bother to read about any website? If you go to Walmart website, Amazon website, where will you see the kind of information they are collecting?
Privacy, under the
The
privacy.
homepage.
Somebody's privacy. Do you guys ever have the chance to read the privacy section?
No, me, I never read them.
I know. And that's why you see, I like America because you go there and they'll be like, you know what? By the time you start filing, guess what? They have everything on the privacy section, but you fail to read. Okay? So that's our website. Somebody said that they never read it. I don't blame it myself too, at times.
The privacy policy.
You go to your privacy policy. We have a privacy policy that tells you all the kind of information we collect. It will tell you everything about the kind of policy. So tomorrow you cannot come and say, you know what, I never read it on the website. And if you guys take a closer look at the this thing I sent, the Google Doc, I actually put something that we are collecting people emails. So before you put your email, there's a section that I put, we are collecting emails. So tomorrow you cannot come and say, you know what, I did not provide this information. And that's why you need to know all these things. We good?
Yes.
Thank you. So that's where you have this law. And many a times, have you also been that type where randomly receive an email, a mail from either one of your banks saying some form like a breach, they are monitoring your thing, like they are monitoring your account, some kind of a breach, but they are monitoring you. Maybe you were not really affected, but kind of affected, but they are monitoring your credit. Have you all received an email like that before?
No.
No one have received a mail like that
Yes,
before?
I have.
Yeah.
It's because of this privacy. Your particular information system that was housing your data, it got breached.
Oh, okay. Yeah, makes
It got breached. And because of this privacy act, when we get there, we're going to see it. They will tell you that you have to communicate to your users. That company will post it on their website, but they know that me and you, we don't visit the company website. But look for all possible ways to communicate to that person, the affected users. And that's why when you are receiving those things, know that the information system that house your data got breached. And that's why you receive that email. And it comes under Privacy Act. Any question?
No, no question.
Good. Yeah. So each time when you receive stuff like that, then you need to understand. So the equivalence of this son, I know I spoke with somebody yesterday, they're kind of worried. They're kind of like, like he's already into IT. I'm not going to mention one of them, their husband, I spoke with them. So one of you, oh yeah. So he was like, when you were taking a job, like now it's more of like focusing so much on like in a federal system, how do you relate it if you have to work for a private company? You see this thing, federal system will tell you, make sure you have a federal register, SON, and all those things. But now in a private, you need to make sure you communicate to your users, post it on your website, mail them, but you have to do everything within your reach to make sure you communicate that to your users. I think I put the federal register, I didn't go there. Like most of my students, like if you come to the Federal Register, this is something that you can go, you see, you have like different system. You see, if that system have a PIA, when you go there, you have all the system at a high level, they tell you what that system does. So, but this is at a high level for the public. Okay. So say you are a security control assessor. You guys, we've not even started, but this is something that you're going to be doing. If you get a job as an assessor, if you are assessing this control, the very first thing I want to look, this session, does it have a SON number? If it had that SON number, I'll just copy that number, go to Federal Register, I'll paste it. Does it pop up? If it pop up, then that control pops. If it doesn't, then you fail the control, and then you come into the rationale as to why you fail the control, right? And that's why I say privacy controls are really that easy, because privacy controls, you are reading just the document, this question and answer, that's it. Like this question, this is a control. That's the privacy side of it, because it has to do with documentation. Do you guys have this? Do you have this? Do you have that? You really don't test the control, but just for you to read, right? And is that even very, very serious, because you have situation where they will ask you even about the retention. How long are you going to retain? Say, for example, you don't need these people data again. How are you going to discard it? How are you going to destroy it? You have to document everything. How long are you going to retain their information? You have to document everything into like in detail. You have to do that, right? And then this is like, yes, it's really good, because what I'm working with, like you hardly get a session. Actually, in most companies, you have this as their very first session, where identify the information the project collect, use it, disseminate, or maintain. So in many cases, when I'm assessing security controls, like this will be 1, 2, 3, 4 controls that you assess on this session alone. They will ask you, what kind of information does the system collect? That's a control you assess for privacy control. Like, how would the system use those information? How would it disseminate the information? And how would it maintain the information? These are different, like 5 controls. And that's why I told you guys initially that I can use 1 hour to access over 200 controls. Because imagine this is already 5 controls for just a paragraph that I am reading. And everything is there. Once you just read, you validate those controls. And the beautiful thing about the privacy control, because they overlap a lot, it's like, to me, it's so much repetitive, right? You have a lot of control families that will reference you to the same session. You do this one, another one will come back to the same session. So it's just a matter of you reading. And if you'll be doing this, it's just a matter of you reading and just validating the controls, if it pass or it fail. So do you see? This is something that you guys, again, is going to come handy. But I just wanted to point out, you see, discuss how accurate of the data is ensured. You have to discuss that privacy impact analysis give us of the potential risks if this particular system is being breached. So it's just more of question and answer and documentation. That's it. Any question? And that should be it for today before we go to the scenarios. Any question?
How does the privacy impact analysis dovetail in with the business impact analysis and business continuity?
All right, so for business impact analysis, that comes now under availability security controls. Privacy controls. Okay, so by the time we start dealing with security controls, remember when I make mention of disaster recovery, that's a business continuity. So once you have a session where you have those controls, that you guys have a disaster recovery policy in place, then you have your BIA, that's a business continuity, where you also have to determine in case of a failure, where you have your primary side, your secondary side, like literally, how do you ensure your PTO recovering time objective, recovering point objective, like for that business to be available at any given point in time, the availability of data. But privacy, how do you protect users' privacy? But that's why you know business continuity. In case of a failure, how do I continue without having any zero downtime?
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Question?
No, no question.
So if I ask a question, can you guys answer now?
I could try.
We can
I
I
like
could try.
that. Yeah, okay, you guys have any questions? I believe if I ask my info, should be able to answer, right? Right. So I'm not going to go to identity proving. That's a lot. That's another one. Still on this categorization family. We've categorized it. We determine security controls. We'll go to privacy. We know we'll have to come up with privacy controls. Another one, no, we talk about identity. That one we're going to discuss because I don't want to put a lot of project for you guys, for people to be overwhelmed.
what you are talking about.
Huh?
Are you still talking about this same document we are seeing on the?
Oh, no, I'm just saying that like still, let me stop sharing.
Okay.
On this categorization aspect, we've just finished 2. So next project, before we finish just the categorization to go to the selection of control, we have a 3rd project, which has to do with the identity proving. Remember we talked about identity, you have like different assurance level, but I'm trying not to teach this because it's going to overwhelm you guys because I'm trying to break those projects, right? People should work on project A, present. At least let's kind of have it in chunks because if I put everything together, I'm saying this because of my previous badges, right? I learned a lot. So by the time I put them together, then I realized students kind of rush over the material. You get trying to get it finished and then it's overwhelming. So I'm trying to break stuff together. That way people should understand what they are doing. And that's why I kind of held this. I don't want to teach it because if I put it as like, oh, try to put all these 3 things together is a lot.
Right.
Okay, that being said, do you guys want a break before we go now to the scenario base? I think we have like almost a couple, like 45 minutes. Do you guys want a break or do you guys want us to continue?
Break is fine.
Well,
Want a break?
And we can continue.
right on.
Okay, I like that. Hopefully when the class starts, you guys want me to write down like this always, right?
God be our helper. Yes, for sure.
All right, the class is coming though. Don't bother, it's coming. All right, myself, I'm so tired today. Oh, not this. Sorry, guys.
I have a question.
Go ahead, please.
Please, so once we subscribe to the class, I'm having trouble. You know how in the community, I want to be able to get all the videos that we've done so far. Would you be able to share that with us directly?
Who is that?
It's Letitia.
Letitia, no, I can't share it directly, though I did it. I'm gonna upload it on the website, but already you're on the community group, right? I did share
Yes.
with you. Yeah, I think it's there. You can share it to yourself, share it to whosoever.
And it's on in YouTube now.
Yeah, it's
You
on
put
YouTube too. Yeah.
on
What is the
It
YouTube
takes,
channel, please?
if you click on that link, it will take you directly to the YouTube. I think it's
YouTube.
Unlimited Sky's Tech. I'm not so sure.
UTIS UTS.
All right.
Yeah, I can share with you and it will take you directly to YouTube. Yeah, because I tried to upload it since they are all free session. And that's why I'm sharing the link. That way I'm not occupying my storage on Zoom.
Yes, because I want to be able to review all those videos before starting class on Monday.
All right, sure. Okay, I'm just going to forward it to you again.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. So let me share my screen. Now, we started when give an overview of what we've done, categorization and privacy. I'm not going to talk on identity proving. That will be for future class. So let me share my screen. Okay, so if you look at it now, I sent you guys a tip for your community in our community group. I said that the very first thing when you are taking an interview, you want to state your problem statement, you want to list the challenges you faced, and then you want to also tell them about how you were able to overcome those challenges. If you are taking an interview today, if you said follow it, I'm telling you, you're going to succeed, right? I have not taken a lot of interviews, but I have carried a lot of research. I have interviewed people, I've employed, I've hired people, and I know what I'm saying, okay? So, and still, I will still repeat, it's okay for you to say, you know what, I do not know. Don't go and be trying to attempt all questions. If you have a job description, if you can cover 50 to 60 or 70% of that job description, you are good to go. You are not supposed to know 100% of that job, no, right? But it's just to tell you about your enthusiasm. What kind of person is it? In most of my jobs that I got, as a matter of fact, they even hire me because of my enthusiasm, right? Not that I'm the perfect student candidate. It's only not that I have this wide experience that when I talk, I know what I say. But initially, my very first role, they hire me. The vice president was like, no, we hire because of that. I always put passion in everything I do. I would tell you how, how much I can go if you give me this job. And that's something that hiring managers are looking for. Somebody, you are looking for people that can, you want to grow your career, not somebody that is dumb man, that you just can you do one thing over and over again. That's it. No. Looking for someone that takes challenging project. And the more you spread yourself, you are helping your own self, you are not helping that company. You are not. If you get knowledge in this, get knowledge in this, tomorrow you want to get a job, that's your experience, right? That should be your experience. And that's why our very first project that we're going to talk on is a categorization of an information system. And this is a pure interview-based scenario that you can use. I send you all I made a video on the kind of questions that they can ask that cover other aspects, leadership skill, technical skill, and whatsoever. If you can tackle all of those questions that I sent to you guys, I tell you what, you will get an offer letter. That's the truth. To me, all interview question is the same. It doesn't matter how they ask you. How they ask is, at the end of the day, it's all about knowing your skill set. It's all about you telling them what you've done. Okay, they're not going to fabricate questions somewhere. No. And 90% of the time, the question that they're going to ask you is thing that you have on your resume, the thing that you told them, tell me about yourself. And that's why I always lay emphasis on your tell me about yourself. That thing will give you your offer letter. It will also move recruiters and hiring manager to move you to the next step, and hiring manager to definitely extend your offer letter. So yeah, tell me about yourself is as good. This should be very, very good. And it's not one size fit all. You have to be flexible and adapt. When you see this job description, you know how you want to adapt. You know how you can play with your words. And many a times it's going to come and they'll tell you guys, you always use linkers. You use linkers, English word. I'm not good at English, but you have to learn to link stuff, For example, I work for these companies because of this experience that I brought to this company, because of this experience that they hire me. When you say stuff like that, believe me or not, they're going to hire you, going to extend the offer letter. But this is definitely going to come, when you guys are ready for your interview prep. All right, so scenario number 1, implementing a new customer relationship management system. At this point, forget about the name of the system. It could be any system that we want to manage, right? Say, for example, our school today, we want to bring in, for example, I'm working on, we are considering bringing, to partner with a company that will help students with their resumes. I am actually going through a pilot program now that even a current student, that's what they are doing. I've taught them how to use the tools. They are already using it. Some of them already registered. So I'm trying to bring it that way future students are going to benefit, right? Monthly, instead of $23 an hour, maybe I can bring it down to $15 or $10 an hour a month, just to help you work on your resume, to have more visibility and for you to have interviews. So that's something that we are working on. Say, for example, maybe that's something that we are bringing in that is going to be collecting a lot of sensitive information, or more of like an in-house tool, that's just like an information system. So it doesn't have to be something that you do not know, but based on your business need and what your organization is doing, then it still falls down on data. What type of data are they collecting? And that's why I said that our company decided to implement a new customer relationship management system to better manage customer interaction and data. As part of the project team, I was responsible of ensuring that the new system complied with privacy regulation. At this point, by the time we cover all this regulatory authority, maybe you can even talk on the fact that because that company actually dwells or have an information system that dwells in California, they also have their own privacy regulation that company needs to abide to. Okay, so, and that's where by the time you've done this project, it comes handy. You can just talk, it flows. Do you see? You have stated the problem, like what is happening. Then you proceed by telling them about the challenges that you face. In one of those projects that I work on was the fact that your company was migrating, come with a new system, but you needed to make sure that you guys comply with, so and so regulatory authority. Now you have stated that, but as much as it's so appealing in the ears, it sounds so nice. Believe it or not, for you to take ownership of your interview, tell me of the problems that the challenge that you face. Don't give these people chance to be asking you secondary question. And that's where by the time I finish with my high level, my tell me about myself, I have said those things. I know they're going to come back on those things that I've told and they start asking me questions. When you start elaborating on all the different projects you've worked, that's where you state it, you come out with the challenges faced and how you were able to overcome those challenges. Believe me or not, by the time you do that, you realize that your interview will be more conversational. Okay? Like, is that easy? It should be conversational, right? So one of the challenges you face has to do with data sensitivity. Say, for example, the system will handle sensitive customer data, including contact details, purchase history, and communication records. And then also ensures compliance with CCPA. This is for California, if I'm not mistaken. This is what I was trying to get. We can get a full meaning of this particular regulatory authority. Or another challenge could be integration with existing system. It doesn't mean that you have to take all these three and talk on these three. Take one, elaborate on it, and it's going to come handy. I just put it at a high level, just something that we've worked on. So you can choose one, the one that you're more comfortable with, how you can elaborate on the changes. Like the third one, this system needed to integrate with other existing systems without compromising data. You are bringing a new system that will integrate with your already existing system. That's a challenge, right? As it's integrating, you want to make sure that it doesn't compromise the users' data. And then you say action and what I did to overcome these challenges. First, I conducted a privacy threshold analysis. Do you guys see that? Is it making sense?
Yes.
Do you see what we covered? Do you know that you can actually use this? If you like everything we've done this, like once you do this project, do you know that this can be your scenario now for your interview? Because at this point, your first challenge was that it's integrating with other existing systems, and you need to make sure that users' data will not be compromised. But what did you do? Tell me, how are you able to overcome these challenges? With your knowledge of PTA, let me tell you, it doesn't matter now if you work in a private setting or in a government or whatsoever. You can still use your government knowledge and bring them to a private sector, because most of the time, yeah, they are not there, but you can use this because at the end of the day, it has to do with users' data. And that's where you want to tell them, tell me what I have done. But might be it was a startup company. I know the importance of PTA, though we didn't have one, I had to develop one, right? Maybe, and me, the way I will put it now, with the internet, where you can literally get everything. I went to Federal Marketplace. I definitely got a template where I customize it to fit my organization need. Or tell them, that's normal. Don't tell them, no, I did it from scratch. No, you got a template, you work on that template to reflect the organization need. You're going to take praises for that. Okay? And those are kind of the things that they are looking. Not just come and be telling them, oh, I did. No. Tell me of exactly what you did. What value did you brought on the table? That's something that they're looking for. So if we talk about this PTA that we've just discussed, after that, now you talk about, just the sensitivity of the data. then you were able to come up with a PTA, and I worked. And this is where I'm going to tell you also, at times when you are taking project like that and you are not comfortable enough discussing this, if they were to ask another question, I'm saying it because I have students from medical, most of my medical students, I have pharmacists and doctors. Most of them, when they have this, they are very good. For some reason, I don't know why. They can nail this, but you have people from different sectors still find it difficult to explain concepts like this. I have students that when you come to PTA, I know they can explain it more than myself. They understand it very well. But if you know this is not your strong point, wish that responsibility to someone else. And that's where I'm coming. So each time you are taking an interview, you want to be careful as to what you tell them. No, I am stating this problem, but guess what? I was like, yes, I did this. You find out, maybe you work in that team. Give me of your role. What role did you play? But I work closely with a privacy officer. I work closely with other team to develop this. Or if you feel like after you guys must have done this project, you develop the policy, you feel like you can explain this, then you can take ownership of the work. Or another way you can use this is, guess what? At that point, our privacy officer actually went on a is it FMLA? What they call FMLA, family leave acceptance. I know if you take FMLA, they cannot fire that person. You know that, right? You cannot fire the person. Maybe say their spouse is sick, or somebody in the family is sick. Once you take that time, they cannot fire you. They'll have to keep your position. So they can get substitute within your organization. Maybe that person went on an FMLA. And guess what? You actually work as an interim. So it just depends how you play with your word, right? These are all the scenarios that once you have actually carried out this project, now it's on you. How you want to play with it is up to you, but make sure you are able to back it up well. Right? And that's how, some of the challenges you face, and then definitely how you overcome it. I've just put a lot of stuff, and then you come now. These are things that you're definitely going to read it, or you guys can read it. I posted it on the community group, and then tell me, after that, after you have your PIA, make sure you follow up with the implementations to make sure they implemented that privacy controls, and then you fall back on Conman, continue monitoring. Just tell me like what exactly you work. For some of you, maybe you are Scrum Master, your product management. That's when security, when you are doing the compliance, I want you to bring in your Scrum skill, bring in your project management skill. Because many a times when you have something like that, oh, I now work closely with a Scrum Master or project management to make sure they did this, right? For some reason, I felt like I've had some Scrum students, like even some roles that will kind of be asking for Scrum and cybersecurity, they actually fit perfectly for roles like that. Okay, so that's why no skills wasted. You can use that particular skill to make sure you get an offer letter in that particular domain. Any question? I don't know why I just put the new. I was supposed to do like how they call recategorization. I actually did this morning. I woke up like 5 a.m. I haven't slept, so I'm really tired. I like work on this very early in the morning. So but we're gonna get all right. Okay, this is another one. Scenario data migration project to a cloud-based environment. Our company undertook a data migration project to transfer sensitive employee data to a new cloud environment. I was responsible for ensuring the privacy and security of the data during the process. Again, list your challenges face. I'm gonna come with different scenario. I don't even want to put just PTA PIA. For some reason, I didn't like take a second look when I developed this doc. So I'm definitely gonna come out with something else. Okay, this is the identity proving that I'm not going to mention it. Actually, one of our students get a job because of this same project I think she's, so far for all my students I've had, she's the only person that understood the process very well. That I said, people still have like their strong point, right? Some people might be strong in this area, some might be strong in this area. And that's why we need each other or one another to be able to, help improve, ourselves. You know, she was really, really like really good when it comes to this. And I have a current student that when we did this project, she just told us this is exactly what happened to their environment, and she has adopted that project. So she didn't quite understand what happened, but when we did this project, it's still like, wow, this is exactly what happened during COVID. And when we do the identity proving, again, I always tell people, you can take it from me, make sure your experience will align during COVID, because many a time we start talking of this, we mentioned the period of COVID where people went remotely, you know, most organization, people have to work from, you know, from home. It's going to make sense. And then, Is this the same document I sent? Yeah. Oh, okay. That first one was privacy. I'm confused. I was kind of looking for recategorization. All right. So the first three that we talk on was like today project, you know. Okay. So the one I'm even more interested is the categorization of information system. For example, I joined a startup company. I did this on a purpose. Many as time, like Amy, who is working with this startup company, I'm telling you, oh, she's doing a lot. She's doing a whole lot. I joined a startup company that was rapidly growing and handling an increasing amount of sensitive data. During an integral review, I noticed that the company information system were not properly categorized, which posed significant risks to our data and security and regulatory compliance. How I identify the issues, I have to come up with this, right? Because this is a statement. When you're doing a tell me about yourself, this can be your tell me about yourself. You state at a high level. You are giving them something, you know, that they will come back and ask you a question. And that's where once you have stated more than how many projects you've worked on, actually showcase your soft skill, you close, you give your remarks, now give them the floor for them to start asking you a question. You know, and tell me about yourself, it's not something you go and be preaching. Take people, you waste like 15 minutes now. At a high level, maximum 5 to 7 minutes, you are done. Max. Okay, especially if it's a 30-minute interview, you can even bring it down to like 4 to 5 minutes, right? And that's where I have to put here, how do I find out? Because I have just stated this thing, it makes sense. What if they ask, well, how are you able to determine that system was not wasn't properly categorized, right? And that's why I said shortly after joining the company, I conducted an initial review of our information security policy and practices. During this review, I noticed that there was no formal categorization of an information system. My colleague is going through the same thing. You can get a job and you can definitely have this. You're not going to be stressing yourself because, again, just what you guys have done in class, you should be able to follow same format. Okay, he's an ISO. He's doing just what he's the one literally doing everything with my guidance, right? Discrepancy. I found that system handling sensitive customer data were treated the same as less critical system, indicating the lack of differentiation based on data sensitivity. How are you able to determine when you join that company? Of course, you have to reach out to different stakeholders. You working for a company, you are a stakeholder. Reach out to different folks, different team within that company, trying to understand the data set, you know, for that information system. So imagine that this system, they tell you, okay, it's housing this information. This one is housing the information. Only for you to realize, you know, they have the same set of security control. It's definitely going to ring bell in your ear, right? It's definitely going to ring a bell. You'll be like, how comes this one has like a less sensitive data? This one, I'm seeing the kind of data that this one is housing. Then even when I run our compliance policy, we're going to discuss that in the, you know, we run your policy scan that shows where you guys are compliance-wise, where you scan all the controls. You can even see a list of all those controls that have been implemented. So just by seeing that, you know, oh, no, something is wrong, right? And that's where you can state there about the discrepancy and how were you able to determine that that system was not properly categorized. Stakeholders interviews. So after you must have discovered that, what did you do next, right? I conducted interviews with key personnel from different departments to understand their data handling processes and the sensitivity of the data they manage. This discussion revealed that many systems had evolved significantly and we're now handling more sensitive data. This is a perfect one. Because you will see situation like that when they say involves, maybe you migrated that system, you bring in additional data, but you did not take no action to be able to recategorize that data to implement additional controls. Guys, are you guys feeling this? Does it make sense?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes,
Right? So just imagine if migrated, you bring in more information types, but guess what? You didn't even bother to like recalculate the impact level to come now with additional security control. And this is an issue. And how were you able to find out? When you were coming, you actually interviewing different departments. And now, that's why I say when you're taking interview, now it's an awareness because initially it didn't happen. Now you must have actually got something within your organization that would be like, wow, you get, but you have people working. You have people working there, right? Analysis of security practices. I review past security incident and notice this. We can take it off if it's a little bit technical, but when we get there, then you guys are going to understand it's better. Some incident involved systems that were not properly categorized, leading to inadequate security measures. Previous risk assessment were either outdated or incomplete, failing to reflect the current state of the information system. Action and how I overcame challenges. Do you see? You have to mention that. So I just decided to put this that way. When you guys are working the way I do it, I always say that each batch I have to learn something that I know I have to improve on the next batch. That's what I do. Right. And you guys with your batch, everything that you see that we've presented so far, I revamp all my templates. I like scratch everything I had. So I have to come out with new template just to look for a way to better the training. Hopefully in the future, we're gonna not just keep bettering ourselves, right? So I just wanted people to see security from this side of house and to know that security is not difficult, but if you can sacrifice some time to study with our guidance, I promise you, you're going to get there. I promise you, you're going to get there. But for you to succeed, you need to put in the work. Okay? And now, for those who are going to continue, so each project that you work on, you're going to have your tell me about yourself for that project. Because one of the things I've realized is the fact that I will allow students to work on this project and then start coming out with your tell me about yourself. I find it a little bit challenging. So I want you to be comfortable when you come to class, you present on that project, record yourself and send it to me about your tell me about yourself on that project. And these are the same approach we're going to use. By the time you do it for over 15, 16, 20 projects you've worked on, when you transition to the interview prep and putting people on hot seat, it's not going to be a headache. We're not going to start training people all over again like how to talk because you must have started. And once you start, you will give me, I will make those corrections, right? I will always like you send out like, no, you have to do this, you have to do this until you get to a point where I feel like, you know what you are saying. And that brought us to the end of our class. I'm open for question.
I have a question. Most openings that I have seen when it comes to like cybersecurity risk analyst, information security analyst, there seems to be this merger of using log aggregation tools like Splunk, Logarithm, and things of that nature, in presenting the reports to the stakeholders and senior management. When it comes to something like that, do you have any suggestions or?
So what kind of role? That's why it also comes with a kind of like job title you're looking for,
Okay.
right? Because you have more compliance job that they can list that, but based on what you've said, from compliance stand, do you really run those? No, you do not. And that's why when you're taking your interview, you always tell them, you supervise that. You can work with, the analyst guy, like the SOC analyst and the other folks that really runs that, the technical guys, But them doing that from compliance side, you need to understand what your policy says, and then you need to follow up and make sure that your remediation, you guys remediate whatever incident you might have per your organization timeline. So the way I would take that approach, like, what, for example, I help supervise or oversee like the vulnerability management effort within an organization, and also work with a different expert or analyst guys within my organization to make sure that incidents are being remediated per your remediation and termination timeline. I believe Linda can help me. She's a SOC analyst. When you have an incident, you have a timeline that you have to do it. You do not just keep it like that. You got to do it. And for them to do that, it's coming out from us, right? We are the ones supervising those. And yes, you can take that report and present it to management. It's easy because it's just like they give you a pen test report, right? You see everything, you present it to them. It's really like it's easy. What comes like from the compliant aspect is more of communication and collaboration, because you are communicating that to management with the tech folks. So you are that person hopping in and out, right? You collect it, you present it to them, you follow up. You can even work now with a Scrum Master and different people, depending if that environment is big on agile, right? So, and that's where you have to play this other role to make sure, again, they meet compliance, to make sure that things are being done. Because if you are not there, then they will not do it. So you are there now to follow up to make sure that you do it on a timely basis.
Yeah, you have like SLAs that you need to work on.
Service level agreement.
Yeah,
Excellent.
yeah.
So that is coming from a policy. We already have that documented on a policy. So so in as much as they are doing, you don't have to do it. You have to collect it. Like where I've worked in some of the places, I will always get all those findings, right? I will even look at your pen test result. I'll even look at, you have like even a dashboard where they will generate it. I'll look at our risk posture. Then I also have to communicate and follow on. Then even when I'm presenting to management, you don't need to be a technical person, because those things actually comes in a statistical format that anyone can read and understand. But it mostly comes like that when at times you have to present to management when you are the ISO and manager, right? But if you are not a manager, then no.
Yeah, I have this scenario that I faced when I started working concerning that. So we're doing an alert came in, so I took that alert, assigned it to myself. I did not even know that when you assign it to yourself, you don't need to keep it for quite a long time. So the team lead always tells me, he will write me because I work night shift. I was working at night shift. So he always reach out to me, Linda, are you sleeping? Do you know you have the SLAs? You have I'm like, what is the SLAs all about? So I was so relaxed. It's one day that is a Cameroonian. He reached out to me and said,